people want to be a part of something exciting.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be a part of a story, So the more you can have your passion and excitement for what you're doing show through on that initial conversation, that goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed that for myself, if I'm reaching out to a candidate, like the more excited I am about, finding the right person and telling them all the exciting things that we're doing, that alone will attract the person that's meant to be.
Hello and welcome to the Glow Up Boss podcast. Today I have a very, very special guest with me. I have a guest that's going to help you grow and scale your team in a way that's like the way that you want to do it, not the way that we end up doing it. When we first start our business as a solopreneur and we're doing our business the way we do it, and then we have to hire our first person, and we kind of do our best and we read the things. We now go on ChatGPT on how to hire and how to scale and how to grow a business, but we don't necessarily do it the right way. So I've brought a guest to you today that has a lot of experience. Her name is Sharon Bondurant. She's an entrepreneur, hiring consultant, podcast host, and coach who empowers other entrepreneurs to become the CEO of their businesses and their lives. As the multi-award-winning owner of Arizona's leading recruiting firm, The Finders, Sharon is living proof that passion and persistence pay off. When her firstborn son was born in 1998, she wanted the freedom and flexibility of being her own boss and was willing to do whatever it took to make it happen. She launched The Finders from her bedroom floor with a fax, a phone book, and a stack of index cards. And over the last 25 years, she's grown The Finders into an Inc. 5,000 firm that has impacted over 5,000 careers and generated over $40 million in revenue. Today, her mission is to help entrepreneurs and small business owners hire smart and hire right. Through her coaching programs, executive search firm, and all things recruitment podcast, she provides education, inspiration, and resources to help others confidently step into their role as CEO, create massive success, and enjoy the process. In her free time, she loves to hike with her fiance, spending time with her adult sons and soon-to-be bonus kids, and drinking great coffee in fun places across the U.S. Well, welcome, Sharon. Thank you so much for coming. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you, Veronique. I'm so excited to be here and just honored to be one of your first guests.
Well, I'm honored to have you, and seriously, in need. In need. I can tell you one of the main conversations that I have with my female entrepreneur clients is recruiting. How to choose your first hires, how to onboard them, how to lead them. So I'm really excited to sit here with you today and to get your insight. So first, tell me a little bit about how you got into recruiting.
Yeah. So, and I'm so excited to talk about this because even though I've done it for so long, it's difficult. It's difficult whether you're first starting out and need to hire your first person or you've been doing it for years. It's always a challenge. So I'm excited to give some tools to people to make it easier and more fun, because I think that as entrepreneurs and small business owners, we have to love what we do and we have to enjoy the process. And sometimes hiring, can be kind of like going to the dentist. Like you need to do it for a multitude of reasons, but you don't always put it in the fun category. So I hope leaving today, people can just have a better, positive mindset when it comes to hiring.
I can tell you though, as women, and you probably know this yourself, the hardest thing for us to do is to let go and to trust someone else with our baby.
Yes, 100,000%.
That's like the thing. I mean,
1,000%.
I can tell you that was my issue when I first started my company, and the majority of the women that I coach, that's the issue that they have as well. So how do you overcome that?
Yeah, well, a couple things. So back to how I got started in the industry, and you mentioned babies. So that's how I got started. I had found a company that trained me for a few years with recruiting, and I loved it. Like I stepped into the office and I knew it was just something I was going to love to do for a really long time. But when I started out in my own journey as a business owner with recruiting, it was really because I had my first son. And that's what I know you shared a little bit in the bio, but that's what really made me think, okay, I need to do recruiting a different way. So I left the company that I was with. And because of my son, the first time I saw him, I thought, oh my goodness, I'm not leaving him for even a minute, let alone 12 hours a day, being gone, driving to an office, working all day, and all the things. So that's what really generated the spark in my why. And I think that's important, as you know, and a lot of your listeners know, like that why has to be so big that all of the challenges that we face as business owners, including hiring, are something that we can overcome because of that why. And that's for me, my son. And when you started to talk about how do we let go, what I found personally, and whenever I talk to business owners, what I find is sometimes you let go because you have to, because you've generated a lot of tasks and success and challenges. And you get to that point where you come to the realization, I need to hire, I need to let go of some of these things, or I'm going to either be stuck or have a nervous breakdown, which I know we can probably all relate. So I think that that's one way, to generate the idea and mindset, like I need help. I need to let go some of these things. And then it's more of a decision of what can I let go and what should I let go?
Right.
I think it all starts there. And we'll talk more about some of those things as we go. But I think one of the easiest ways is, you have to let go when there's really no other option. That's the easiest time and the easiest decision.
I know one of the things that I did when I did my first hire is I took a board and I wrote down all the things that needed to be done in the business. And then I had a column for things that I love to do and things that I hate to do.
Absolutely.
And I hired someone to absorb the majority of the things that, that I really didn't like doing all that much and didn't have to do.
Yes.
So that was for me the strategy that I implemented.
Yes. And I would highly suggest that. In fact, I'm actually redoing it because I think it's something that you can do at the beginning when you're first starting out, but then you can also do it when you get to certain phases in your business. So I actually, Veronique, it's funny because this is my third day I've been doing it. So all this week, I took out just a sheet of paper and every 15 minutes, I wrote down what I was doing. Because what I'm finding is I'm being pulled in different directions. And a lot of small business owners are going to feel the same way, where you have your goal set out, you have an idea of what you need to do each day, and then you get done with your day and you're like, I did not do any of this because I was pulled into, different meetings, or fires came up, or you got a call, something happened.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important just to do that audit every 15 minutes. It's sometimes, sometimes it's a pain or you get done. You're like, I was supposed to be doing this audit and it didn't happen. But every 15 minutes, just, writing out, okay, what am I doing? Am I still doing this task? And then looking at it, if you can do it at least a week, you'll see patterns of, okay, how can I offload some of these administrative tasks or things that are pulling me away? And I think when people are looking to hire that first person, it's usually, I think the best idea is to hire someone that can take some of those things off your plate that someone else can do.
Okay.
Maybe even better, but it can definitely save you time and you can have someone else doing it.
Great. So now I've done that. I've made my list. I've decided, these are the things that I'm going to offload onto my new dream hire. Now what? Glow Up Boss Podcast is brought to you today by Infinity Sun. Are you an entrepreneur thinking that you'd like to start a new business that's fun, that doesn't cost a lot of money to start up, that you could do in the evenings and weekends and earn lots and lots of money? Starting a spray tanning business definitely checks off all those boxes. With state-of-the-art plug-and-spray proprietary spray tanning systems that require only one solution, you can literally choose 30 different levels of spray on the spray tanning system itself. Infinity Sun offers sunless tanning solutions that combine high-end skincare together with sunless tanning technology to not only create the most flawless looking tans, but also to improve the condition of the skin. If you want to benefit from Glow Up Boss podcast, you can type in the checkout GUB25. That gets you 10% off your opening order for an Infinity Sun spray tanning system.
Yeah, a couple different things. I think before you make that hire, it's really good to go somewhere quiet and really write down and think about what's an ideal situation. Like this person, if everything worked out exactly as I wanted it to, what would this person be doing? And what would the impact be for you? Because at the end of the day, it is an investment to hire someone. And you want to make sure that you are investing funds the right way that's going to take things off your plate and not make, more work for you. So I think that would be step one, is really knowing, what's the impact of bringing this person on, who's the right person culture-wise, as well as task-wise, and then go from there. So that's definitely, the first step.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're defining the role. You're defining what that person should be like. And I guess you're thinking also about like your culture, the culture you're trying to create in your company, what's your company's mission statement, and whether or not they'll fit into that culture that you're going to try to build within your company, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
then I guess writing a job description, right?
Mm-hmm.
What the role is going to be, and really clearly and concisely. How do you go about doing all of that?
Yeah, that's a really good point that you brought up. I think before that, really writing down what your mission is and what your values are and what the vision of your company is.
Mm-hmm.
Then the overall job description. So what you want this person to be doing and what success would look like for that person over, 30 days, 60 days, and beyond. Because when you get to the point where you are going to reach out and you're going to attract the person that you want, I think that it's really more important today than it ever has been. People want to be a part of something exciting.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be a part of a story, So the more you can have your passion and excitement for what you're doing show through on that initial conversation, that goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed that for myself, if I'm reaching out to a candidate, like the more excited I am about finding the right person and telling them all the exciting things that we're doing, that alone will attract the person that's meant to be working with you.
Mm-hmm. So you have, this is who I am. This is what the company does. This is what our mission statement is. This is where I plan to take the company. And this is the culture that I'm looking to build. And you're coming on board in the early stages, and you're going to help me develop and grow this vision.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How exciting.
Yeah.
It's See, I didn't know all of this when I started my company. I just I need help. So I hired someone, to do the things that, weren't going to move the needle. And I kept hiring people that, would do things so I could work on the company rather than in the company. And
Yes.
I did that to scale really quickly at the very beginning, so I didn't do the, define the culture of the company and the mission statements and, the leadership, really putting in place the employee handbooks and, how are you going to evaluate, what is the frequency? What does it mean to be successful in the role?
Absolutely. Right. And I think, there's a couple things to do ahead of time. So one is what we just talked about, but the other is really identifying the leadership piece and the training and the onboarding.
Yes.
And I didn't do that when I first started. I hired out of need, because we got really busy, which was great, but it was more of a need. And then it was almost reactive.
Yes.
It's like, oh my goodness, I need to hire. I'm going to put
what
an
most
ad.
people do,
Right.
though, right?
And it's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Because you learn and you practice, you practice on your first employees. And now looking back, 26 years later, you can have a good hindsight and those lessons that you learn, and still learn. I still learn every day.
I was going to say, do you ever stop learning?
Never, ever.
Because the goalpost moves, right?
Absolutely.
Hiring today isn't the same as
It's-
hiring, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, God, 20 years ago, God, nowhere near. It's like a different world now.
Yeah. So, a couple good things to remember too is that usually people will leave because of their manager or their leader for whatever reason. And it's a two-way street, of course, but that's what we hear, when we're recruiting and we talk to people that are looking for a new opportunity and we ask them, well, what's making you want to leave? It's usually something where either a new manager came in or a new leader and there was just misalignment. So it's really good to be able to take a little bit of time if you can, if you're just starting out, to really think about when I'm ready to hire, who is going to be my ideal avatar? Like, who do I need to come in and do this? And what things will I need to put in place ahead of time? Whether it's a employee manual or training, because when you have someone come on, you really need to carve out that time, and it's going to be extra time. I'm sure you've seen this too.
Mm-hmm.
You underestimate the time that you're going to need to spend to train someone and
Mm-hmm.
be able to offload all those things that are taking up your time. In the beginning, you're going to actually have to put more time into the training
Mm-hmm.
to make it, have you have more time later. And so I think if you can know that up front, I think it's very helpful, because I sometimes, even to this day, sometimes I'll forget, like, oh yeah, it's going to take me longer to
And
train someone.
and I agree with you, but I also know myself. And I know that when you're like really busy and your business demands so much of you as an owner and you're hiring someone new, you just really want them to get up to speed. So you almost have to like work on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to find the patience within yourself
Yes.
to really lead and to really educate. And I find that really challenging. That doesn't come easy to me.
Me too. Me too. And I think that's one of the things I can say I've gotten a lot better about, because you have to have that patience. And I think entrepreneurs and, we're not patient
Well, not only
usually.
that, but we're used to wearing a lot of hats. So when we hire people, we kind of expect them to know and do. And when they don't know and do, the natural instinct is, okay, I'll do it myself. It'll be faster.
Right.
And I think from experience, I've discovered that's actually the worst thing you can do.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yeah. So I think if you can just start to think of those things ahead of time, like as soon as someone starts a business, start to think about these things. And it's never too late. Like as you're going, just start to create processes. Like, this is how I do, this task. Because if you can
Yes.
do that, even just a little bit up front, it's going to save a lot of time on the
Yes.
hindsight.
So put SOPs in place wherever you can. That makes things a little bit easier.
Yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, speaking of timing and when you're ready to hire, we usually are very reactive. So, like we were saying, we usually try to think about hiring only when we need to find someone.
Right.
So, if we have someone in place, that's off of our, we're not even thinking about it.
Hmm.
But usually people will change jobs about every 2.3 years. So even if you find your perfect person in your mind, and hopefully it'll be a long, great relationship, but the average in the US is like 2.3 years that people are switching jobs. So
Hmm.
it's very important to know, okay, I'm going to, hire this person, but I need to be more proactive in my recruiting so that we're constantly attracting the people that we want, even if we don't have an opening right this second.
Hmm.
And a lot of that can be done through marketing, through, social media, which I know a lot of your listeners are great at and are on social media and marketing. But I think that there's a lot that can be done ahead of time
Hmm.
and ongoing so
Hmm.
that when a need arises, you can already have that candidate pool.
That's brilliant. That's so smart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, someone once told me always be hiring.
Yes. Yes.
Especially when you have your perfect team, because it's just then when you have your perfect team that, the other shoe drops and you weren't expecting it unless you're always like in hiring mode.
Right. And a lot of us are selling, we're selling products or we're selling services. So you also have to be selling to your, the person that you want, your hire, your
Hmm.
next hire. So all of the same things that you're doing to sell to your customers, you can be doing to sell to your, your next hire.
Hmm. One of the things that I've experienced myself, and I know a lot of other business owners, is again, going back to when we start a company and we wear a lot of hats, we're used to adapting to whatever is needed of us in our business. So oftentimes when we hire someone, we expect them to be able to adapt and do all of those things. And I think that's a little bit, you can get into, trouble if you think that way, because not everybody can do accounting and sales and marketing.
Right.
Right? They're
Different
two different personality
traits.
types.
Yeah.
So what do you do if you don't have enough work for, a full-time hire that's going to be doing the books and, the sales tax filings and that sort of thing, and you need someone also to do social media or sales or, marketing of some customer service. What do you do in that
Yeah.
situation?
That's a really good question. So, a couple of things.
There are thousands of homeless dogs in the pounds and shelters and running all over the streets, and not enough people out there to help them. Sprays for Strays is a fundraising organization that raises money through the sunless tanning and beauty industry to help all the rescues all over the United States of America pull the dogs out of the pounds and shelters, get them vetted, get their vaccinations, get them spayed and neutered, help with any sort of behavioral issues, and help to get them into their forever homes. If you'd like to donate to Sprays for Strays, go to spraysforstrays.com. Or if you'd like to become a member, we offer amazing support at Sprays for Strays to help you grow your business and save the lives of dogs at the same time. Go to spraysforstrays.com and become a member or donate. Every little bit of support helps. Thank you to our sponsor, Sprays for Strays, for helping to save the lives of dogs, one spray tan at a time.
One, I would recommend using some type of assessment tool. So there's like the Colby assessment or a predictive index, sorry. Those different tools. Do you use those?
I don't.
Okay. I think they're really good in the hiring process because then you have a template of, okay, this person's super detail oriented. It'll give you the basic idea if someone's extroverted or more introverted, if they're detail oriented, because that way you can really look at the different tasks that you have on your plate and you can know, okay, I'm going to, this task might be a good thing to put onto this person's plate. If they're not detail oriented, then that will also give you a lot of insight. So anything that has to do with accounting, numbers, commissions, and that person probably is not the right one for the job. So I think that's the first thing. And then, using part-time people. There's so many people right now, especially in this market, that would take contract work. There's Fiverr and all the platforms that you can, outsource those things. I hired a part-time person just recently for our onboarding for all of our recruiters. And I mean, it's working great and it's only like 10 hours a week, but it works for her and it works for us. And then, you can add hours if needed. But I think that's a really good way if you need someone very detail oriented. And you find that one person that can do those tasks and maybe part-time and hire, someone else to do more of the other tasks that are more social.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So you have Fiverr, you have Upwork, and there's even like virtual assistants like in the Philippines and in India that, aren't overly expensive. And they're really good at doing things like putting processes, SOPs in place.
Yeah.
So once you can identify what the repetitive tasks are, you can actually hire someone to put those SOPs in place to make it easier for you to train people and those kinds of roles. And it's different because, a lot of my customers, for example, they're spray tan artists and they run spray tan business. So that doesn't necessarily work. They have to train them, on the process of meeting with the customer and doing a client consultation and, all the things to make someone feel at home when they come into your space or when you go to their space. How to choose what formula, how to do the actual service and all of that. So that, again, that's a little bit different as well. But then with that, it's more than just doing the service. If you're trying to, really maximize and give the person as many hours as you can. So maybe you're going to have them do customer service, outreach, maybe a little bit of social media marketing, maybe
Mhm.
working on brand ambassadors and this type of thing. But those are really different skill sets too.
Right, right. Those
So
would be more
again,
front-facing,
right.
activities with your customers or following up with the customer afterwards,
Yes.
doing that upselling or those types of
Yes.
things versus the more accounting,
Yes.
behind the scenes, organizing, scheduling. Those
Yes.
tasks would all go
So that wouldn't
hand
be
in
your
hand.
Upwork, your Fiverr, your VA. So that would be more what, like LinkedIn, Indeed. Where would you hire those more hands-on?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn, Indeed, definitely, some of the job boards. I think it would be a good idea to think about what other industries would be a good transition. So, where are your ideal people probably working? So, possibly, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, hospitality.
Hmm.
It could be a restaurant or a server, it could be a hotel, somewhere customer facing.
Hmm.
And I'm sure you you have way more ideas than me on that, like where to find those
And
people,
that's
right?
brilliant. Never even thought of that, but yes,
Yeah.
hospitality would be a really good place to
Hospitality
source.
or like a country club or yeah, any kind of I'm trying to think.
Hmm. So we've identified what we need, right?
Mhm.
We've decided what our company culture was going to be like, the vision. We wrote a job description. We put together some SOPs as best as we could. We went out there. We promoted to, we decided whether it was going to be full time, part time. We started recruiting, looking for the right fits. Now I've hired someone. What's next?
Yeah. So when you make that offer, I think that, before too, there's kind of that interview piece that we need to make sure that we have, done the proper interviewing and vetting and a couple things just, that I can think of to share. Sometimes we'll get referrals from people, right? Like our either friends or colleagues will refer someone. And I think a really good piece of advice is even though you might get a lot of referrals, always interview and verify like you would just as any other candidate. Meaning, don't just assume because they were a referral that they're like the perfect candidate. So
Yes.
check references, go through your entire interview process just like you would if you had no connection to that person.
That could be like a whole podcast right there, just the interview process.
Yes. Yeah. So we can always come back, but I want to share because a lot of times I think as small business owners, we want to find the right person so much and we're so eager to do
Mhm.
that. And sometimes we want to find like a shortcut or this person said this person's great, so they must be great.
Right.
And there's a lot of different things. Even if someone's great at one industry or one area, it doesn't mean that they're going to be right for your business. Or, the light that they saw them in might not be the light that you see them in.
Right.
So, but yes, after you find that person, then it's really important, like we were talking about, just the onboarding process, really looking and making sure that you're carving out more time than you probably initially would think and carve out that time, block it out because one of the most important things is you want that new person to feel appreciated, excited, feel like they're getting all of the information and that they're being supported when they first start. And when they do first start, it's a little bit of it's like when you first start dating someone, you're also looking at, okay, is this going to be a really good fit for me? So you really want to make sure that first, few weeks, few months that they're feeling appreciated, supported, that you're giving them all the tools and training and following up with them to make sure that it's a good long-term fit.
Mhm. That's great
Yeah.
advice.
And it also goes both ways. So, of
Mhm.
course, you want to, set those expectations that here's after, 2 weeks, this is, these are the things that I want us to go over and that I really want you to take on without help,
Mhm.
depending on what it is. 30 days, 60 days, give them an outline so they know what you're expecting and
Mhm.
what an ideal situation looks like.
I read everywhere, hire slowly, but fire quickly.
Yes. So that was always what I would tell people too. I think in years in business, I think what we were talking about being patient, sometimes it does take a little bit longer if someone's not catching on. Or I think it depends on what the situation is. If there's any type of character flaw, something that would just be a deal breaker, yes, hire quickly or hire slow and fire fast.
Hmm.
Definitely. If it's a situation where someone's not catching on or they need more training, then I think sometimes just being a little bit more patient instead
Right.
of having to restart the whole process again
Hmm. And I
can
know
be good.
I
Yeah.
know that there are certain industries that attract a certain type of person. Like, for example, in the beauty industry, it's a little bit more creative. And so there's certain personality types. And I've seen this across the board for many years. Like now with social media, they may have their phones out all the time and they may be on social media or they may be texting or, they may have an event that they want to go to and they want to travel. Maybe part time, they're trying to be an influencer. How do business owners normally handle this type of thing?
I think in today's world, being flexible, and knowing what your staff member needs, if they need that flexibility and they want that flexibility, being able to do that and knowing just the age group too. Like I have sons that are in their 20s, and so what they're expecting and what they're excited about and the style of work that they want is different than someone, you know, my age.
Right.
So I think just understanding where your employee is coming from and what's important to them, and then being able to provide that, within reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be a tricky one.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else that you want to add to this today? We always end the podcast with three takeaways. Three like things that the
Mhm.
listener can actually go and do like right away to move things forward. Whether they're considering hiring a new person or they've already hired their new person or they're, maybe hiring their third or fourth or fifth person and they're growing their team. What
Yeah.
are three things that you can think of that they can like go in action right now to move things forward?
Yeah. I would think the first thing is that daily audit of how you're spending your time.
Hmm.
I think that's the critical piece that you can do no matter where you are at, whether you're hiring or you will be hiring. Number two, I would say start to think about just that whole process, like we talked about. When I am ready to hire, who is the ideal person that's going to be a good addition? Like, who's going to be my number one hire?
Hmm.
And number three, I would say, read a lot. There's so many books that I can think of that were really helpful for me when I started out. The one that comes to mind the most is The E Myth. Have you read The E Myth?
No.
It's such a great book. It's by Michael Gerber. And it talks about usually as an entrepreneur, we start doing what we like, what we love doing. So for me, it was recruiting. For some of your listeners, it might be a tanning. But I don't even, what's the word? The tanning.
Spray tanning system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. A spray tanning professional. But you're usually doing that task. You're the technician.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get this idea of, oh my goodness, I want to build a business around it. But the things that you do as a technician
Yes.
versus a manager or an entrepreneur, a business owner, they're so different. So the E-Myth really goes into that and how you can work in your business and on your business at the same time.
Hmm.
So I would definitely suggest reading that book.
Those are awesome. Those are three really, really great takeaways. Well, I really want to thank you, Sharon, for taking your time and joining us today on The Glow Up Boss. And I look forward to reconnecting, maybe doing another podcast on something a little bit more specific where we can like really drill down.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you so much for having me, Veronique.